Hello guys, welcome to another video. Today we're gonna talk about the cost of living in Montenegro. I often talk about Montenegro here on the channel because it is a country with a low cost of living, also a country in which it's relatively easy to get residency, and most importantly, it is also a country with a high quality of life. So knowing that, let's see the factors we will cover about the cost of living in Montenegro in this video. The first one will be real estate in Montenegro, how much you have to spend if you want to rent a property in Montenegro or if you want to buy real estate in the country. Then we're going to talk about groceries, how much you have to spend when you go to the supermarket, what kind of products are available. Moving on to going out and services. What if you want to take your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your dog for a nice treat in a restaurant or to have access to any kind of service, how much money you have to invest to access them. Then we're going to talk about transportation in Montenegro, how much it costs to get from point A to point B in the country and what options are available. Moving on to salaries in Montenegro, it is very important to understand the cost of living in Montenegro, but also the salaries, the economic reality of the country. Then finally, we're going to talk about the cost of staying in Montenegro, the costs involved in actually getting residence and living in the country. And the last aspect will be the healthcare in Montenegro, what is available and how much money you have to invest in this. And before we start, like always, if you want to travel, move or invest abroad, hit the like button. Check our other videos, book a consultation call. It will be a pleasure for me to help you designing your immigration plan. And most importantly, subscribe. Let's start. First of all, the thing which I consider the most important one when we talk about cost of living, real estate. Real estate in Montenegro. We can divide basically real estate prices in Montenegro in two categories, the seaside and everywhere else in the country, including the capital Podgorica. Real estate costs on the coast of Montenegro are by far the highest in the country. Some parts of the coast are definitely more expensive than others, like Budva, Kotor, and some high-end development projects like Porto Montenegro, which is close to Tivat, close to the Tivat airport. If you consider the coast, prices per square meter can range easily from 2,000 to 6,000 euros. If you are just spending some months per year in Montenegro, I would recommend coming in months outside the summer months, which peak at July and August, since you can get pretty cheap rent on the coast if you come in any month apart from the peak season months. The prices in the capital Podgorica are much lower, but they do not fluctuate seasonally. You can find a good number of properties in the 1,000 to 1,500 euros per square meter range. If you're going to rent in Podgorica, you can find a lot of options in the 300 to 600 euros range per month. Other parts of the country, other smaller cities which are not at the seaside, are even cheaper if you're looking for a house, a farm, something like this. Next topic, groceries. Groceries in Montenegro are not cheap, especially if you consider local salaries. Prices are similar to what they are in other countries in the region, such as Albania, Croatia, and Serbia. Since Montenegro is a pretty small country, you may find difficulties in finding products you can find in larger cities or countries. Bear in mind that the population of Montenegro is just 620,000 inhabitants, the whole of the country. So even if Montenegro has an overall low cost of living, it is definitely not in groceries that you actually save a lot of money. The cheapest groceries in Montenegro are actually the local produce. So dairy foods or local poultry or meat are good options if you want to pay a lower than average price on food while in Montenegro. Now let's talk about going out and services. Going out and services in Montenegro are usually cheaper than in most countries in Western Europe, and oftentimes even cheaper than countries in Central Europe. Since salaries in Montenegro are considerably lower than in Western Europe, any price that includes a service is almost always lower than in Western Europe. You can have a nice meal in a restaurant in Podgorica, for example, for something around 6 to 8 euros for one person, and a beer can cost easily below 2 euros. Taxi rides are also cheaper than in the West. Let's say if you want to ride 3 kilometers in Podgorica, it is likely to cost you just 3 euros. talking about taxi rides, we go to the next factor, which is transportation. Transportation infrastructure in Montenegro is not the best, but on a good note, it is quite inexpensive. There are two main problems affecting the quality of the transport infrastructure in Montenegro, and they are very significant. Please pay attention. First of all, the country is highly mountainous, so it is quite difficult and expensive to build roads or railroads in the average Montenegrin terrain. Secondly, the population density is low, so there is not a huge demand for a high-volume transport infrastructure. If you want to read more about this, you can read about the Road to Nowhere in Montenegro. Is a very complex but even funny and tragic recent story of the Montenegro infrastructure projects. That said, if you're traveling by bus, van or rail in Montenegro, prices are quite inexpensive. A train ticket from Podgorica to Bar, for example, is just 3 euros. A bus ticket from Herceg Novi to Podgorica is about 10 euros. I would highly recommend having a car if you want to live in Montenegro long term. You will most likely need it often, regardless of whether you want to live on the coast or in the capital. Now let's cover the topic of salaries in Montenegro. As I have mentioned before, salaries in the country are well below Western European standards and way below North American standards. It is definitely not a good investment to move to Montenegro if you are just looking for a well-paying job. The average salary in Podgorica is somewhere between 400 to 500 euros per month. On the coast and during the season, salaries can be a bit better, but bear in mind that most positions on the coast do not last year-round. However, if you want to come to Montenegro to look for a job, I would strongly advise against it. On the other hand, it is a good country to open a business and hire staff, since the overhead will be much lower than in Western Europe. Regardless if you are doing business remotely for clients abroad, or if you want to actually have a business in Montenegro like a restaurant or a hostel, for example. Next topic is the cost of staying. Here we're gonna talk about what engulfs the price you pay to get a residence permit in case you are a freelancer or working for a company abroad, or a retiree or a businessman and you want to live in Montenegro. There are basically two options here. The first is buying a property and getting a residence permit based on the ownership of real estate. In this situation, your cost will be the price of the property, plus your own ongoing costs. The other option is to open a company. By opening a company, the initial cost is lower, as you won't have to acquire real estate. But the maintenance costs are higher, as you will have to pay an accountant, also your own salary, taxes on the company's activity, etc. Last topic we're going to cover is healthcare and health insurance in the country. All foreigners residing in Montenegro need to have a health insurance in order to get and renew their residence permits in Montenegro. There are public and private healthcare facilities in the country, so you can actually choose which way you want to go. If you don't want to wait for an appointment, probably going to a private clinic is going to be the fastest option. If you indeed choose the private option, prices are quite affordable and much lower than what they are in the US, and still lower than what they are in Western Europe if you're going to a private clinic. A consultation with a specialist costs as low as 30 euros, but this obviously depends on many factors. Now it's time for a verdict on how much does it actually cost to live comfortably in Montenegro. To sum up, it is possible to live in the country with a budget of 1,500 euros per month as a single person. As a matter of fact, you can live quite well with that money, including rent. If your budget is lower, it is still possible to live in Montenegro, let's say 1,000 euros per month. You can still manage it, but if you have to pay rent, your comfort level will be restricted. If you're not coming alone, you can add some 400 to 500 euros per month per person in these calculations. Anything beyond 2,000 euros a month will provide you a great lifestyle in Montenegro for one person. So let's say if you have a family of 4, that would be something around 3,500 euros per month. You will live in a much better situation, you will be in a much better position than most of the population in the country. That's it for today's video. If you are coming to Montenegro, please contact me. Let's design together your immigration plan to Montenegro. If you have any question, you can also drop a comment below. And if you want to travel, move or invest abroad, hit the like button, check our other videos, and most importantly, subscribe! See you next time!